I want to show you guys my fake stone and freeform planter mix. And it's very important that you sort of follow this because it makes the cement very strong, so you got to really pay attention. So what I do is I always add my water first into an empty container, and I know the right amount. And then I add 3 shovelfuls of cement, which is about that. So that gives me 3, so I need to add 9 shovelfuls of good gravel, sandy gravel, cement mix. Now it's really important to have a good, powerful mixer or a cement mixer. Okay, so I got my mix right here, perfect mix, thick like porridge. So now I add polypropylene fibers. Don't add these at the beginning, add them maybe at the latest in between the middle, but I always add them at the end. And it's really important to spread them out as much as you can. So let's say 3 handfuls for this is pretty good, because I'm not going to use rebar, I'm just using fiber. 3-4 hands. And when you're mixing it, never just start to mix because it's going to wrap around the blades. So what I do is I poke it in without mixing. By doing that, I get the fiber wet and it doesn't wrap around the mixer and it's spread out nice and even. Okay, now I can mix. And when you grab a handful of this, you can see all the fiber in it. It's fantastic. It makes the concrete so strong. Make sure you get all the way to the bottom. Get the fiber down there. And then pull it up. Okay, let's get starting to make one of those planters or the fake rock. So what I do is I have a flat table, and that's where I work on. So I'm going to make a 2-for-1. I'm going to make a freeform planter and a fake rock at the same time. So since I'm making it dual functional, I'm going to I do this, and this will show on the top of the planter. It'll be a different color. So this is white Portland. And you don't have to be very perfect with this. Just get a little bit of a layer on the table. Okay, that's that. Now I'm going to start to place my concrete. You can go quite fast with this. I tap it down a bit so it goes into the cement. Okay, so that's the bottom part of my fake rock or my planter. I don't want it too square. Okay, the next phase. I fill this in with sand, so it's the sand fill method again. There is no easier way anywhere to learn how to make fake rocks or fake planters or organic planters than with the sand fill method. Anyone can do this. It's very easy. And don't get any sand on top of your wet cement. We need a continuous line of cement, so we don't want any of the loose, dry sand on top of it. Now you could wet this down, the sand, but I tend to leave it dry because it dries out the moisture in the concrete really fast. And then I wet it down anyways afterwards, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so keep this wet. Don't get any gravel or anything on top of it. And you just keep going. And you can see what's happening. You're just basically building it up to get to the height you want. And this rock is basically going to be pretty lightweight, or the planter, whatever you choose to use this for. So you get the concept. You're basically sand filling the space in between. You've got a nice layer of concrete around the outside that is full of polypropylene fibers. And it's really important, if you have a hole that's low, get in there and put some more cement there just to keep it continuous. And you can see that this 3-to-1 mix is very rich, so there's no chance of this planter dying in the freeze-thaw cycle. It'll do really well. Okay, so I'm just going around, making sure that I don't have any bigger holes. Again, okay, so we're gonna not show you this whole filling because you understand what's going on. But I'm going to get to this height, and then I'm going to show you how the cap goes on, how that works. Okay? Yeah. No. Come up higher. Just want to show an intermediate stage. And what I do is I have to do this. I have to push this gravel against my wall, just so it fills in nicely and it's not too thick. Okay, that's all I wanted to show, is that we actually push it against the cement that's there. Okay, we're going to go higher again. Okay, so I'm 14 inches high, and I'm going to put the top of the fake rock, or the bottom of the planter. And I'm going to show you how I do that. I don't, in this case, I'm not using any metal, but you could put, a couple of rebars across. If this was the top, it would make it, a lot better. Or you could put a mesh here, whatever you want. But with the amount of polypropylene I have, I don't need to do that. So I'm going to fill up the top. Okay, there's my start. And if I'm going to stack other rocks on top of this, I want this flat. And if it's going to sit on a balcony or something, I want it flat as well, so that it sits nice and flat. Okay, I'm definitely using this as a planter. So I want to pay attention to these lines here. I want to make sure they're filled in nicely. This is less than 1 bag of cement. So whatever it costed your area to buy a bag of cement, that's basically the cost, and then a little bit of fiber. So dirt cheap to make these. Okay, quite level. Vibrate it a bit. Okay, so one thing I like to do is I like to walk around the bottom, especially when you're going to make this into a planter, and just knock this edge nice and round, just by walking around and touching it like this. I look for little holes. This one I'm going to make very rough, so I'm actually slicing lines into it. There's many ways to decorate this. You can use stamps, rollers. So you can make your own rollers. I have a video on how to make a texture bark roller and a regular roller. And I also have a video on how to make these stamps. So you just basically go around. Don't want to do too much of this because I want to keep it very rough. Okay, so here's a little trick that I've learned, and that is I'm going to stain this into darker colors, but if you use white Portland cement, the stain does more work. It enters the concrete a lot better if it's white, and even the process of let me come to the front. Even the process of it picking up mold from the environment, that happens very quickly if you have white cement on it, a lot quicker than gray. So the next thing is you'll see the little fibers sticking out everywhere. Just take a torch and burn them off. They'll burn off very easily. We have this material they sell here. It's for making grades on stairs. Very tough material. And it has these nice black rocks in it. I like to come back and throw this in there a bit harder, just so it looks multi-layered, because when you paint this, the white and the tan will paint differently. If this gets 6 months in the garden, it'll be so full of growth. It'll be unbelievable. This will turn into almost like an earth-like structure. It just disappears. There is another thing you can do, is take a handful of dirt after this dries and rub in the dirt into the surface of this rough surface of this planter, and that'll give you a very colorful organic planter, because the moss will grow on it everywhere. So I've definitely decided I'm going to turn this into a planter. So I'm going to make 2 larger drainage holes. I basically just push it into the sand and I'm done. Nothing else. Knock out the mess. There's the second hole. Okay, I've got my 2 drainage holes. Make sure this comes out. I'm into the sand. These are big. Okay, there's one last thing I really want to show, is I usually knock the top a little bit, the size, not as much. So this yellow, this tan color, is incredibly strong. It has lots of chemicals in it that give it the strength. But the last thing I do is I always come around the bottom and I get my leftover. So I have a beautiful concave edge here that goes all the way around. Because when you have the planter, you don't want anything sharp. And if you look closely, I have gray showing, I have white showing through, I have yellow, I have lines that are showing the depth. If you want to put more lines in, go ahead. Then it looks really cool. Just looks more organic. Don't go too deep because you're going to go through all the cement. You can't do that. You need it strong. So you get the idea. You can use many tools on this wet cement, but it's really important for me to get this last edge in. A lot of times I'll lift it up, throw it again. This can be rectangular shapes, this can be straight up, this can be, but since this is a planter, it's going to be very oval, very, very organic that way. Now, if you make all your rocks the same height, let's say this is 14 inches. So the next rock, if you're going to stack them beside each other, make them 14 inches as well so that you have the same layering. Okay. Make sure you have no cracks that go all the way through. Look for that. Push them into place so they're tight. So this is one huge rock or one huge planter, however you want to use it. And this is the sand fill method, super easy. Anyone can do this. I would say this is probably, cement is really expensive in many locations, maybe 12 bucks for this whole planter. It's half a bag. So the only thing we have left to do is make this a bit flatter, is wait for tomorrow to take it apart. So you'll lift it up, you dig out all the sand, and you'll have one great planter or one great rock, whatever you want to use it for. If you want the walls to be very stiff, what you can do is wet the sand down. If you wet the sand down, you can sculpt it a lot better, make your square shapes. But as a planter, it's almost better when this opens up, or the top in this case. So when you turn it over, you've got a bigger planting surface, which gives you more room to put your annuals or whatever you want to put inside here. And that's how you make these sand-filled rocks or planters. Prevent this from drying out too fast. What I do for the first 2 hours is I cover this, and then I take a spray bottle once the cement is set up a bit, and I moisten the fabric that's on top. And this prevents the sun from drying it out too fast. And by tomorrow I can demold this and it'll be super strong. But just make sure you cover it so you don't get any hairline cracks, especially if you live in cold climates where you have to worry about freeze-thaw cycles. It's really important to have no cracks that have already started because it's drying out too fast. So keep it nice and wet and keep it protected from the sun. Okay, it's the next morning, and I'm going to demold this. It is heavy. I won't be able to lift this myself. So I have a little trick what I do. Push it over the edge, and then I grab the sand out from this side. And that way this is still soft because it's not 2 days or 3 days. So just by doing this, I get in here and I can reduce the weight immensely without having to flip it over. Put the other way. Get this side off. So I keep working around until I get it nice. Concrete is still nice and fresh. And this is a great technique for bonsai dishes too, to make bonsai dishes. This doesn't happen all the time that it oozed inwards this much, but I have to deal with it. This edge a bit softer. And that's basically it. Now I fill this up with topsoil, or I use it as a rock facing down. And you can see that the bowl comes out. It's like a bowl, so the plants have more space. And it will be a great little planter for the garden. Okay.